This video is brought to you in part by, yes, PremiumBeat.com. PremiumBeat is a royalty-free stock music website for all of your creative needs. If you guys like the tunes within this video or perhaps want to take a look at a diverse range of tracks, take a look at PremiumBeat.com in the description below. What's going on, guys? Today we're gonna be playing around with this thing, this camera, this amazing tool that you can shoot some incredible stuff on. I'm gonna be talking about my favorite techniques to use with my phone in order to capture some super cinematic stuff. Let's get into it. The first thing that I want to talk about is utilizing slow motion. Now, with the surge and accessibility of having incredible cameras in your cell phone, they've upgraded and updated the firmware software. I don't know what they use within these to be able to capture stuff that's like hyper slow motion. Anywhere from like 30 frames to 60 frames to 120. And then my phone can do up to 940 frames per second, which is bananas, bazonkers. Like, I don't even know how, what? So capturing diverse frame rates, especially going into the higher frame rate range, personally, I found really cool. So yes, having slow motion at your accessibility is a huge plus, but the number one thing, like all things, is just don't overuse it. So what I love is actually diversifying my frame rates, being able to diversify my frame rates up the cinematic quality, because it didn't look like I was just using one frame rate to make it look cool. I was changing things up. If I was shooting something like really action-packed where there's particles flying, I would shoot that in super slow motion. But if I wanted to give a little bit more movement or feeling to a scene, for instance, like when his hands are standing out at the top of the rock, I shot that at 24 frames because I knew that would give a lot more emotion and feeling of what it actually felt like when we were there. Play around with 940 frames per second. Play a little bit around with your super high-speed slow motion effects. When it comes to shooting nature, shoot slow-mo for it. When it comes to shooting people and movement, try doing 24 frames. Use the functions that are available. My next tip is shooting at golden hour or sunrise. So basically, when the light looks really nice, you know, when the sun is just coming over the horizon, that's when you get the golden stuff. That's what your camera loves. It's able to pick up all the details. It's not too dark, it's not too bright, and it's a great middle zone. Time of day is very important when it comes to capturing cell phone coverage, mostly because when it's too dark out, when it's late at night, your footage starts to look all grainy and pixelated, and when you shoot right at like the sun is hot and sunny, the sensor doesn't work too well with the too much light, and everything looks kind of like jittery because it doesn't have ND filters, so what it does is it actually cranks the shutter speed. So as a quick tip, if let's say you are filming at when it's super bright out, instead of shooting that at 24 frames, crank that down to a slow motion. Therefore, you're not getting like a really choppy looking image when you're capturing it. Other time of day to capture would be when it's like super overcast and like it's really cloudy. Your cell phones love when it's super overcast. So whenever we were in Vancouver and BC, I was able to capture some really great stuff because essentially you're not shooting when it's too bright. You're getting full texture across the sky. And if this is something that you want to learn a little bit more about, I have a full video in the description below that breaks down times of day for you to film your scenes at. Next thing, number 3. I think it's 3 or 4, perhaps I'm at 3. Number 3 on the list would be using a gimbal. Now, having a gimbal for your phone is just, I mean, it deserves its whole own video to talk about, but basically whenever I put this thing in a gimbal, I was able to capture a wide range of different coverage. Here's the thing about cell phones. They're not really good to hold for filming. Like when you hold a phone, you kind of have to like figure out a nice, you're like, okay, I think this is it, but it's not made for filming. When you hold like a DSLR, you hold like a cinema camera, there's handles, there's things, there's sturdiness, there's the lens. You have stuff to make the shot more stable. Phones don't have that capability. So having a gimbal, I'm able to not only just use it as a handle to stabilize my shots, but also able to capture a lot more cinematic movement. So I'm able to run across different grounds, and what I loved doing was actually getting my gimbal nice and close, getting my camera nice and close to the ground, just running with it, going across rocks, chasing Samya, whatever I could. The closer I got this to the ground and ran with and shot in slow motion, just looked beautiful. It looked so wonderful. So gimbal, phone, really great pairing. If you want to capture really cinematic cell phone stuff, amazing investment. And another tip is, if you can, shoot in 4K, shoot at a higher resolution. As an editor, it drives me mental having 4K, but as a viewer, it's amazing. It also gives you a little bit more leg room if you guys need to do some scale-ins. I know when you're shooting on your phone, it shoots everything at a wide angle, so having 4K available allows you to do some scale-ins, allows you to do some digital scale-ins, some keyframes, that sort of thing. My second last tip to bring up to you guys is use custom settings if you're able to. There's a bunch of different apps out there. The Samsung products, the Note 9 and the S9, have the capability of Pro Mode. Now, Pro Mode has so many different bells and whistles and features. Primarily, the one that I loved was actually being able to control the focal length. So I was able to get depth of field within shots. So if I got really close to like flowers or whatever, I put on the manual depth of field and it made it look like a higher quality camera. You're also able to shoot raw photographs. So if you have a Pro Mode on your camera, really explore that. My final tip, and the most important one, is treat this like a movie camera. Treat this like a cinematic machine. Don't think of it as, oh, I'm just pulling out my phone, I guess I'll get a little moment. Use this as a tool that can capture cinematic stuff. If you think of it and you put the energy and motivation behind it, the same motivation that you would put behind a cinema camera, you will capture more cinematic shots. And that's it, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for taking a look at this video. For those of you who like the coverage and movies that you saw within this, you can check out my cross-Canada videos I shot entirely on a Note 9. I didn't have additional lenses. I didn't have a bunch of different bells and whistles. I caught most of it on my camera and on a gimbal. And if you guys like what I'm babbling on about, want to follow me a little bit further, it would be amazing if you hit that subscribe button. It would mean a whole heck of a lot to me. And let me know what some tips and tricks and techniques that you would love to know about making movies.